Welcome back to the webcast. Today is Wednesday, so we are talking Premier League and the Champions League return this week, games yesterday and today. Let's talk about it. All right, welcome back to the webcast. All sports, one web, and today we're talking about Premier League and the Champions League, giving you our picks for Week 10 in the Premier League and recapping Week 4 with the North London Derby and the Manchester Derby, as well as going through Champions League, which is where we will start. But first, I have the honor and privilege of bringing in a good friend of the webcast, Mr. Kester Wu. Kester from Amsterdam, staying up late to discuss Ajax yesterday in the Champions League against Napoli, as well as Manchester United in the Manchester Derby, and do the picks with us. Kester, how you doing?
What is up? Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have you. We had after the international break, the last international break leading up to the World Cup in Qatar in November, and stick with us here on the webcast as we are going to give you all you need to know and get you hyped for the USA's return to the World Cup as we get closer and closer, down to almost 40 days until that tournament kicks off. But after the international break, we had a full slate of Premier League games for the first time in 3.5 weeks. With the passing of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II. So we had a full slate, and was it great, with the North London Derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham, Manchester Derby with Holland versus the Field. And now we have Champions League on top of it, Champions League every week now until November to finish up the group stage games. And that's where we'll start. So out of your first, the group, I always think week 3 and week 4 are the most important. You play the same team back to back, home and away. The way that the Champions League is built, you have a group of 4 and you play each team home and away, and you alternate. And so you play the first team first, and then you'll play them 6th. You'll play the second team second, and then 5th, and then you'll play the same team twice, 3 and 4. And today was week 3 for everybody. What was your biggest takeaway from the games yesterday and today?
I actually didn't know that the Champions League group stage was formatted that way. Like, I didn't know you played the first, you played one team first, and then you played that same team last. But that actually kind of makes sense now.
I will say, I believe there is a caveat with scheduling, and they can switch it, but that is the structure that is supposed to be in place, from my understanding. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. But no, I think it was a great week. All except if you weren't an Ajax fan, I think that hurt. But other than that, no, I think it was. Champions League this year, we're missing out a couple of, I would say, traditionally stronger teams that are normally supposed to be there. So you always have these matchups that don't.
Is that the Manchester United fan talking, huh, Mr. Europa League? Huh?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. No, I mean, I think there's a couple missing. I think, like, traditionally, like teams like Roma or I don't know, maybe some of the Belgian teams too that are not there. So you have all these weird matchups, like Bayern played. I don't even know who they played. Like they won 5-0 today, I think. Yeah. And then you have like Juve play like a team from Israel or something like that. Yeah. So it as great as the Champions League is to bring in all the European teams that they're able to play in a global stage, it kind of there is a mismatch in terms of the quality and the ability of these teams. But yeah, so I don't think there was any particular game where it was a 2 heavyweight matchups. But other than that, let's talk about Ajax.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely not week 3 or 4. You don't have any of those heavy hitting games. It seems like those came up in the first couple of weeks when we saw Barca Bayern, for example. I think to kick off the group stage games, we saw Liverpool Napoli, which we seem to get every couple of years. Both of those teams, Liverpool and Napoli, playing yesterday and winning. Napoli with a plus 11 goal differential after 3 games in a group with Liverpool, Ajax, and Rangers. So that's pretty incredible. I guess I offend Ajax by saying that, that's not a big game. But after a 6-1 drubbing, how is the atmosphere there in Amsterdam after that kind of performance? Now they sit third in that group, 6 points behind Napoli, 3 points behind Liverpool.
I think they're a realistic bunch. They do know that they go into this group, with either a second Champions League spot or into the Europa League. They know they're probably not gonna beat Liverpool, and they know they're gonna beat Rangers. So I think, not just Ajax fans, but Dutch fans are quite realistic in the first place. But I definitely don't think they expected a 6-1 defeat at home. I think this is also a big reality check for them because it didn't really seem like losing their manager, losing 2 of their star players, 3 of their star players, and not really having anybody replacing those players was a big deal in the beginning of the season. They're still doing good in the Dutch league. I think did they draw Liverpool in the first game or
2-1. 2-1.
Oh,
I believe
2-1.
it was.
Okay.
Yeah. But
now
I remember
it was still a good
being
performance.
close. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's a big reality check for them because they look lost up there, right? And it is what it is. They need to pick up, they need to pick up the slack. But no, you can't really pinpoint any one player on the Ajax team and say, hey, like this guy can, help us out of the mess. Those guys are all gone. To the Europa League.
Yeah, and how funny is that? They stay in the Champions League, and their coach leaves to go coach in the Europa League. But then again, coaching Manchester United is a whole different level. We will get to them as we go through the EPL picks week 10. So stay tuned with us. Kester and I will be giving you our picks for week 10. We got 6 out of 10 right last week, so hopefully we can keep the momentum going. We are cracking the top 1,000 rank there, so make sure you go ahead and make your ESPN account. Get ready for that. Do your picks along with us, and we will see who does better by the end of the season. But I love, like I said, I love this week 3, week 4 in the Champions League because it's kind of like a mini knockout stage. It's such a crucial point in the group stage. The first 2 games, you can feel like you could lose them and get yourself back into it. We saw Tottenham when they made all the way to Champions League final. They didn't win a single game in their first 3, and they still were able to advance out of that group. But week 3 and 4, I feel like, is when the groups really start to settle. You look at a team like Chelsea today, week 3, hosting Milan at Stamford Bridge. Sitting bottom of the group. If they were to lose, they would then fall 6 points back of the leaders, 4 points back of second place with only 3 games to go. It makes it a little bit more difficult. Now that they've won that game tonight, that puts the leaders on 5 points and the bottom Dynamo Zagreb at 3 points, so only 2 points separated. Really changes the complexion of the group. And I'm sure Tottenham will be feeling the same way as they drew 0-0 with Frankfurt, as they will now return home for that one. But the whole stigma behind Antonio Conte is that he can't perform in the European competitions. But what are your thoughts so far of Conte at Spurs, taking their first loss to Arsenal this weekend in the Premier League, and sitting second so far in the Champions League?
I mean, it's really easy to say, a manager's just not performing or he can't perform after the game he loses. Like, I've never heard of, a coach or someone actually winning a game or doing well a game and maybe even drawing or tying. And then everyone's like, nah, he's not cut for it. You just go with the wave, right? But like, to be fair, I think Tottenham have both Lucas Moura and Kulusevski injured. So their front 3 is still stuck with Harry Kane, Son, and Richarlison. So I think the
best in the league.
They're not. Of course, these 3 aren't. They're not a bad bunch, but I mean, playing 2 games a week, week in, week out, is their legs will go at one point. And I don't think Son Heung-min is on his best form. I don't think Harry Kane is on his best form, and and this is. It's weird too with the World Cup coming. This is, I think, the first World Cup where it's mid-season, so I think it's in every player's head and in their mind saying like, "Hey, I can't get injured before the World Cup because if I get hurt now, I'm not going." So I think there's this weird balance between like whether I'm really going for it or not for every player. But no, I don't think Conte is one of those coaches. I don't think he's one of those I can't perform in either a knockout tournament or any tournament type of coaches. There are some that tend to be more of a league type of manager than cup ones, but I don't think Conte's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you're a great manager, you're a great manager. These competitions are hard to win. So I agree with you. I think Conte is, I mean, we've seen him reach cup finals in domestic leagues. Yes, he might not have reached, I don't know if he's ever reached the semifinal of European competition. I think maybe the quarterfinals is the furthest he's gone with either UVA, Chelsea, or Tottenham now. Or even Inter. I think when he was with them, they went to the Europa League quarterfinals, I think.
Yeah, I think
getting bounced.
This is also his first full season with Tottenham, right? Like he only he was only appointed, I think, somewhere halfway into last season. So I mean, yeah, I think this conversation is too early to say. I mean, I'm speaking about this the most logical way. I know this is not the most eye-catching way of saying like, oh, whether this person is ready or not. It's kind of like how Man United fans thought like Ten Hag was the worst manager in the world after 2 games, and then he won manager of the month.
And
then he lost 6-3 to Man City. Like these things are gonna take time, right? Like it's not. It's too early to say. But the thing I can say is, he got the players he wanted into Tottenham compared to all the other previous managers that didn't. So I think that compared to his 2 managers before him, he has less of a bargaining power when it comes to this type of stuff. But other than that, no, like they're also in a they're also in a tough group too, Tottenham. Like there's really no like the what do you call it, the FC Copenhagen's or the Maccabees in their group, so they don't really have like an easy game to go. Coming off a loss, against Arsenal is always going to be, a tough game to play.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, I mean, Arsenal, I think, has won like 5 straight at the Emirates, so it's almost commonplace, it seems like, for Spurs to go there and lose. But the commonplace for Antonio Conte is to pick up points no matter what. He doesn't lose very often. He gets a draw away to Frankfurt, gets to come home, sits second in the table, gets Frankfurt again, a win there, puts them up 3 points on Frankfurt with 2 games to go, practically sealing qualification into the next round. Tottenham, the unlucky ones in the Champions League final against Liverpool due to a handball call in like the first 5 minutes of that game that kind of ended it. Inter Milan, however, might be the benefactors of a more egregious call, which was against Barca yesterday in the Champions League, 88th, 89th minute. Inter up 1-0. A defender goes to head the ball, completely misses it, and punches the ball out of the box. And it goes to VAR, and it's not called. A penalty for Barcelona. Barcelona now sit 3rd in that group with all of it to do as they get Inter back at the Camp Nou in game week 4 for the Champions League. But VAR, especially, we saw it run rampant in week, I think it was 3 or 4 maybe of the Premier League. Oh, no, week 5, I think. The Premier League with the West Ham calls and that Newcastle Crystal Palace call, the worst VAR decision I've ever seen in my entire life. And this one might get up there, but we've had some troubling calls here with VAR. And you were right before we joined on here, we were talking about the way rugby does it. And you are more of a proponent of kind of adopting a rugby type style of VAR?
I think it's, they should definitely look into it, right? Like I'm not going to say we should copy it for football to copy rugby 100%, right? Because it's just different. Rugby, it's easy for them to stop the game and say, hey, like, we need to look at VAR or their equivalent of VAR and then come back. But I still stand by the point that I think VAR is a very good thing for football in general, but I don't think it was implemented correctly, right? Like there's a lot of things that we never really thought about. And, because every other sport was doing it kind of just looked like football wasn't following the technology that was available. And they just kind of pushed it and say, okay, now you have it. And that's it, right? But in reality, this is far from perfect. And I think the biggest component to this is every single sport that has a VAR or a video review or anything similar to that also has, a stopping clock. I think that's one of the biggest, factors that change how the way we view it, because the referee is on the, literally on the clock, trying to make a decision with VAR or not. And the more time you take into VAR, the more time, it takes out of the game, right? And it starts making no sense. And then you start having like 10-minute injury times, 12-minute injury times, where you just all that happened was, the referee had to go look at the VAR. But the way rugby does it is very straightforward. There's a referee on the field. There's a referee that sits in a room somewhere within the video. And if the referee on the field does not see or can't make a decision because, either he or she doesn't see what happened, then they actually delegate the decision to whoever's sitting up on the in the room looking at the screens and asking what happened. And after, the video referee sees it, they would recommend the referee, or they would give the instruction to the referee on the ground to say, hey, this is what happened. This is the decision that you can make. And it's still up to the referee, on the ground to make the decision. But, there's very, very good communication between the two, right? And there's a very clear responsibility difference. And best of all, this conversation is actually live on TV. So if you're watching it from home, you can actually hear the conversation. If you're watching, at live, at the ground, you're in the stadium, and obviously they're not going to play it out loud so that all the coaches, all the players can hear it. But if you're at home on TV, you can actually hear it. So there's more transparency into how decision is made. Whereas in football, in the Premier League, for example, the VAR is just literally a decision. There's just a screen that says VAR decision, no goal or offside or whatever, right? And there's no transparency in the middle. You have no idea how they got there. And in the Champions League, I think the referee just runs into a little tunnel thing, and they just look into a screen. You have no idea what he's looking at. He can be watching YouTube videos, and you would have no idea what, on what he was looking at. Is he actually seeing what happened? So I think that's the biggest difference, right? And it still comes to the clock situation. If you have 15 minutes to make a decision versus 15 seconds, that makes a huge deal. So, it's definitely worth looking at compared to rugby. But obviously, again, without the clock stopping, it's just impossible to just implement, exactly to have it exactly the same. So,
anyway. I mean, you look at the NFL, and the NFL we're all accepting that NFL games take between 3.5 to 4 hours. And there's about 15 minutes of actual gameplay actively live that's going on in those 4 hours. And we accept it. We accept that as just how it is. But in the Premier League, for example, like you said, we're going to see 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes of stoppage time if we took the same amount of time to review calls. And we all know now, when the ref kind of runs over to check and watch the replays on VAR, that most likely the call is going to be overturned. And I think that is one issue that I don't like. I do like the idea of having more of a collaboration that is publicized, adds credibility and responsibility to that. And I do like that the center referee is the one who makes the final decision. As you mentioned, they do that in rugby. And so in the NFL, they just review everything. They're like, hey, go review this, and they go and watch it. So you don't know whether or not it's going to stand, it's going to be overturned. You don't really know that going into it. Now in the Premier League, as soon as they do that it's going to be overturned, whether it's right or wrong. That it's going to happen because that's kind of the way that it's been implemented so far. But I agree. VAR is important. We're going to see it in the World Cup. They're also going to test out offsides, automatic offsides, I believe, going into this World Cup. So we'll see if that gets implemented and how that is received by everybody when a toenail is offsides and the World Cup final goal gets taken off and we go to penalty. So we'll see how that one goes as we move into it. But yeah, that wraps up the Champions League recap. And so now we're going to just dive in to the Premier League picks for Week 10. Again, we do all of our picks through ESPN. So make your account and come on and pick along with us. Our current record is 38-29, and we cracked that top 1,000 Not too shabby, so hopefully we can keep it going. Leicester with an emphatic win over Nottingham Forest on Monday. James Maddison getting back to his old form with 2 goals in that one as they travel to the South Coast to take on Bournemouth, who I think a lot of people had in the relegation battle, but sit right now on 9 points after 8 games. Who do you got for this one?
I actually have no idea why Bournemouth has, 9 points, you said? How did they even get there? I don't even remember them winning or tying at all. But apparently their record is 2-3-3, as I see right in front of me. But I have Leicester. I have Leicester for this one, just because I think Leicester. They are coming back. I think that, they lost a couple of key players, right? They lost Kasper Schmeichel, obviously huge deal. They lost
the day before the window closed,
which is really weird, by the way. I don't think anybody talks about it enough. Like, how did he just kind of like walk away from the club with nothing? He still had a year on his contract, by the way. Like, they mutually terminated, and he just went to Nice, which was kind of weird for me that happened. No replacement whatsoever. Danny Ward, as much respect as I can give him, is not a Premier League caliber player, let alone a Leicester caliber player. They lost Fofana to Chelsea. So I think they need to pick up some slack on at the back, but I think they're still good up front. So Bournemouth doesn't necessarily have the best defense, so I'm going to go with Leicester for this one.
What do you mean? 9-0 to Liverpool, 4-0 to City, 3-0 to Arsenal. They have a great defense and even matched by a better attack. Okay? Come on, Bournemouth. Come on, you cherries.
They played with a mirror, so that's the reason why they went the wrong way. That's the only thing I'd say.
It's kind of a remarkable team that has only, in their last 8 games, if you exclude the League Cup, they've scored in 3 of them, and they haven't scored in 5 of them, including those large defeats to some of the top 6 teams that I mentioned there. I don't know. Coming into the season, I had them as in a relegation battle because I didn't know where their goals were going to come from. It seems like right now they're picking up 0-0 draws, 1-1 draws. That's kind of how they're getting to, those 3 draws there, the 2 wins, coming against Nottingham Forest, and I can't remember the other one. And Leicester, we like to think they're going to get going at some point. Maybe this last Monday with the international break was that point. So I agree. Let's give Leicester all 3 points, leaving the South Coast to get their second win of the season. Wolverhampton Wanderers last week losing 2-0 to West Ham, but that was not the storyline coming out of that game, because the storyline coming out of that game is that Diego Costa has returned to the Premier League, getting subbed on for his debut as a Wolves player. Kester, your favorite player, has returned to the Premier League, and now he gets to go back to Stamford Bridge. How are you feeling about that one?
I'm disappointed in the British government. They had him with visa issues originally, and then they overturned that. They should have just stuck with their original decision. Don't let that guy back into the country. What is wrong with them? I have no idea. But Wolves also lost their manager.
Yeah,
Bruno Lage has been fired. So I don't even know who's replaced him.
Yeah, I assume they have an interim.
Okay, so they didn't really.
I was surprised by that as well. Yeah, I was surprised by that one.
So I'm going to go with a Chelsea win with this one, just because they're at the Bridge. Chelsea looks like they're picking up some form with Graham Potter. But yeah,
undefeated, like Graham Potter.
But I don't understand the Diego. I just don't understand. I really don't. Like, it's not like Raul Jimenez is a bad player. They have the players they need up front. It's not like there's a desperate need of that one player in that one position that's needed. So makes no sense to me at all. And he kind of, he doesn't have the best track record in terms of discipline, and that's as far as
I have that he didn't get a single red card at Chelsea. So
yeah, which I mean, what he has been there's been allegations of something. I forgot what was it like racial abuse, or like what was it?
Being the best striker in the Premier League? Is that what it was?
I mean, if you want to define, if all it takes is not getting a red card, I think that's. I mean, Ryan Giggs also was never sent off, so there you go. and he played like forever. He's been in there since the beginning of time. But no, I mean, like I don't understand. I just don't understand. If you're lacking a striker or something like that would make sense to me. But like even when Raul Jimenez, he had his head broken or something like that. Like if they managed to get him in during that time, that would make sense to me. But yeah, none of this is making any sense.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Plus, he's not even Portuguese, so you can't even use that card. He's Spanish Brazilian, so he's not even Portuguese to use that one. But I feel like their attack, Wolves is always a team, especially at Molyneux, that can defend. You're going to get a tough game, but it's whether or not they can score. Raul Jimenez, when healthy, I think can give that to them. So I agree. I don't know why bringing in a older Diego Costa was the move for him, but
is Fabio Silva still with them? Their backup striker.
I was checking that out because they got Huang Hee-chan, who's been doing great. Huang has been doing fantastic when Jimenez was out, especially the beginning of part of this year.
That's right.
And I'm just looking here.
No, because I remember at one point they fielded an all Portuguese.
Yeah,
Jose
Sá. Yeah, Jose Sá. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're the mini Portuguese team. It was funny when COVID was going around and all the Wolves got so much after the Portugal national team met for their international meetup, and then the Wolves got hit with COVID because of that meeting, just because of how many players that they have from Portugal. So, but yeah, Chelsea, great win tonight against Milan. I've kind of been up and down, a lot of new pieces. I am still, I don't know, for those who've watched the first couple of episodes here on the webcast, especially my rants on Chelsea, still bitter about the Thomas Tuchel firing. I am giving Graham Potter all of the support. It's going to take some time. This is his first big gig. He hasn't even attended a Champions League game in his entire life before taking the job at Chelsea and managing against Salzburg. So that was an interesting fact to learn. So it's going to take some time for him to adapt, especially with all these new players who are still adapting to each other. But 2 draws and a win to start his managerial career, not too shabby. So I agree. Chelsea take all 3 points at the Bridge. One player that is not hard to manage, it seems like, is Mr. Rubber Band Man, Erling Haaland. He's got 19 goals in 871 minutes played this season in all competitions. That's a goal every 45 minutes, includes Premier League and Champions League. But he's not done yet because in his last 3 games, which includes tonight's drubbing of Copenhagen 5-0, where he picked up the first 2 goals in this one, then bowed off at halftime. He has 8 goals in his last 198 minutes of play, which includes 2 hat tricks in the Premier League. And that is a goal every 25 minutes. And that is 2 Premier League games and a Champions League game. Is he going to be stopped by Southampton this weekend at the Etihad?
No. I mean, there's no, just, I mean, he's unreal. Let's be honest here, right? Like we didn't really expect this to happen. We expected half of this to happen, right? We expected him to score maybe 1 goal a game. We expected him to elevate, what Man City is, because Man City never really replaced Aguero. They never really had a striker, a prolific striker in the front to score goals after Aguero. And like it was a weird situation. Gabriel Jesus was still there, and they still played like 6 midfielders up front. Like, it was a weird situation. But then, no, the only thing that can stop Haaland is Haaland's knees. That's it. That's the only thing that can stop it. Like he's either going to continue playing like this, or he's going to get hurt because he's too strong for his physique. So, like, it just reminds me a lot of the old Brazilian Ronaldo, and the explosiveness. But like as soon as like one injury, and that's probably a big injury, like an ACL or something like that, he's never going to be the same player again. So, fellas, enjoy it while it lasts. We're watching something special. But no, Southampton's not going to stop that, and no one is. No one is going to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, he's just on a whole nother level. I agree. We thought he was going to be good. I thought he was going to come in and compete for that top striker spot in the Premier League with the likes of Kane, and goal scoring wise, if you added Salah and Son even from last season. But but this has been just absolutely just unreal, just insane. I mean, you look at especially the Champions League now. He has, I think, 20 like 6 goals in 20 games. His first 20 games in the Champions League, 21 games in the Champions League. Ronaldo and Messi didn't get their first goals in the Champions League until they played about 25 to 30, I believe. They got their first goal, and this guy is averaging more than a goal a game already. And he wasn't playing with Barcelona as Messi was. And Ronaldo obviously started with Sporting, but then played with United in those early years. He played with Dortmund and Salzburg and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's just absolutely unreal. I mean, I don't even know what to say about the guy.
Well, to play devil's advocate, I mean, it's actually I feel like it'd be harder to score for Barcelona or Man United in the early ages because you have more competition in your position. So you probably play like the last 20 minutes, or you come on for like a substitute or something like that. But like for Haaland playing for Salzburg, playing for Dortmund, he was almost guaranteed as a starter every single time he played. So it kind of makes more sense that he scored at a very early stage of his Champions League career. But either way, I'm not taking that away from him. I'm not taking it away from Messi or Ronaldo either. But no, it's Man United lost 6-3 to Haaland and Foden essentially. But like Man United had a really horrible first 2 games. They sucked. Right, that's it. They sucked. There's no heart into it. But if you really watch the 6-3 game, like Man United weren't great, obviously, but they really weren't terrible. They weren't really that bad. They just got outplayed by a lot, and that was it. Like and everyone says, it's a disgrace. Man United is a shame, blah, 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 blah. But don't take it away from how good City has been, how good Haaland has been, and how well the rest of the team supports him too, because like it's, like they played with no striker last year. All of a sudden you inject the best striker in the world, right away, and things will change. But it looks like they have no problem switching to the new system. So
yeah, and you see, I mean, Kevin De Bruyne could always pick out a pass better than almost anyone in the world, but it seems like he's just picking out passes that he doesn't even think he could make, and then he hits it, and then he just lets Haaland go get it and if he does it, he does it, and if not, then okay. And some of the goals that he's been scoring, I mean, it's like a combination of the goals we used to see with Ibra at Ajax, those black belt karate type goals. His foot's above everyone's head. He's spinning. He's back heeling. I mean, it's absolutely incredible to watch. Across the whole sports landscape, we've had some great milestones. Just yesterday, Aaron Judge broke the American League for home runs. That's stood since like the 50s or something, 60s maybe, getting 62 home runs, and that's in a shortened season. We've seen Albert Pujols now crack the 700 club in baseball. All these different great accomplishments, the things that Djokovic and Nadal have been doing in tennis over the last 2 years, breaking and re-breaking the Grand Slam record. And even in single seasons, with Djokovic completing another career Grand Slam, as long as he can get in with his vaccination status, he basically wins the entire tournament. And now we have this. This is something that I'm excited to watch with Haaland. If he can keep up this pace, he'll get a break in the World Cup because sadly Norway didn't make it. But he could start going and comparing himself to Messi's 2012 92 goals in a calendar year season at the pace that he's going. Granted, this is just a start, but I think this is another great storyline for those who aren't aware of it. Go check out this kid. He's 22 years old.
I mean, like, okay, the biggest difference of the greatest of all times, and the people, the names that live in legacy and the games that get talked about for decades to come, is consistency, right? Like if he does it for one season, if he does it for 2 seasons, everyone in this generation is gonna remember it. The next generation is not gonna talk about him anymore.
Yeah,
like I think that's a difference. That's a difference between like a Roger Federer or a Nadal or an Aaron Judge, like you said. Like they're so consistent throughout their years. Haaland, being 22, being this explosive, this powerful, this strong, makes sense. He's probably at the peak of his physical ability. But again, like I mentioned this a couple of minutes ago, like the question is, can he stay healthy, right? Because
Yeah.
part of the reason why he came to Man City, and I'm actually thinking this is part of the reason why Man City signed Julian Alvarez, is because the agreement or the whole point of signing Holland or Holland coming to Man City is that he doesn't have to play every single game. Because if he plays every single game, if he plays 60 games a season, and I mean, like he didn't make it to the World Cup, but if he was at the World Cup, right, he's not going to have a break at all. It's just going to be too much for him, right? But right now, it looks like he's played every single game.
All I'll say is today he played 45 minutes. He started the half, scored 2 goals in the first 15 minutes, got subbed off at halftime. The game was already over.
Yeah, but he's playing Copenhagen. He's
playing Copenhagen. Against Southampton. He's got 3 hat tricks on the year, all in the half. Like he gets hat tricks in halves.
I mean,
it's incredible.
I hope they sub him off at halftime in the future just to save his legs, I guess. I mean, yeah. I don't know what else to say apart from that. But yeah. I mean, like we of course we want to see him healthy. We want to see him, be able to perform at this level for a longer period of time. But we all know that's not, the chances of this not going to happen is much greater than what it is going to happen, right? We said the same thing about Brazilian Ronaldo. We said the same thing about a lot of players of this type, but yeah, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing about Holland, he's not going to be this explosive for the rest of his career, right? Like if he can change his way of playing, if he can be more of a poacher, if he can be more of like a player without using strength wouldn't be his biggest attribute, and if he can switch to something like to something that's not like that, then then he would be one of the all-time greats. Then we're going to talk about him in the future, like Messi, like Ronaldo,
even adapt his game like Ronaldo has. Ronaldo just kind of sits in the box for the last couple of years, but still scores goals, still wins Champions League. So his last legs at Real Madrid, they're just kind of moving over from the left-hand side to up top and just sitting there waiting to score. You bring up a great point with the original Ronaldo. He blew out both his knees in his early days with Inter. Still in his younger days, won the World Cup with Brazil, all of those accolades, all of those goal scoring, which is very similar to how Holland is starting. The closest really we've had is him. We'll see if he can continue to also compare that to basketball, for example. Zion Williamson, obviously coming out of Duke with the way that he was able just to jump and just so explosive. Everyone was concerned for that exact reason. Can his body keep up with how explosive he is? He's been injured for most of his first 2 years here in the NBA. And so that's definitely something when you are just so physically gifted, your body can't even handle it. So we'll see whether or not that continues. Brentford, with one of the greatest starts to the Premier League season, now have kind of fallen off. They got 4 draws, 2 losses now. Newcastle, who just seems to play everybody well with 5 draws, return home up north to take on Brentford. Who do you have for this one? And what's your overall feeling about these two teams who kind of people almost had kind of between relegation and possibly fighting for maybe a top table finish? And you didn't really know which way to go. Which way are you going for both of these teams at the moment?
Yeah, I agree. These two teams are a little weird. We really didn't know what to expect from them, especially Newcastle, because with the new money coming in, with I think, one or two new signings. I think Kieran Trippier was one of them. I think, or did they sign him last January?
last January. But what a signing that has been.
Probably, I think one of his name didn't even pop into my head, and then I realized, oh yeah, it's because he didn't play in the Premier League. He played in the Atletico Madrid. But Nick Pope coming in, so I think Newcastle in a very good position to elevate their game, but I don't really see them performing well this season. I don't know why. I guess it's just more gut feeling than anything. But yeah, I just don't see them fighting for a possible European position. They're not going to fight for relegation, that's for sure. They did that already last year, and then they splashed 100 million just to get themselves out of that position. But no, I think they're going to be a mid-table team. I think everyone's going to have a tough time playing them, but but still, they're just not going to be up there. For Brentford, I think they're it just depends on their form, right? On a good day, they beat Man United 4-0, and on a bad day, God knows what's going to happen. But no, they're I think they're a well coached team. They know everybody knows exactly what they're doing. And the thing about these mid table teams is they do one thing or two things extremely well, and if those things work on the day, they're going to have a great game. But if that thing doesn't, if the opposition does enough homework and manages to tactically neutralize them, then they don't really have a second plan or a plan B to go. So that's how I see Brentford. That's how I see most of their players. They're very, very good at playing like a high press. Being really physical, running the channels. But I would take this one as a draw. I don't think either team has too much spark to actually be extremely good. But yeah, I'll take his draw for this one.
Yeah. See, I've been battling back and forth with this one myself. Newcastle play, the international break, and then playing away to Fulham, a great win away to Fulham last week, 4-1, even though Fulham got a red card after like 8 minutes or something like that. They haven't played in front of that fan base, one of the best fan bases. The stadium, anytime you watch that game, you can hear the fans there. And I think that's going to be the reason why they take all 3 points from this one. I can see a draw, but I am leaning Newcastle on that one. Can I convince you to jump onto my side here and go with all 3 points from Newcastle?
Prove me wrong. I am. It's one of those things, right? Where, yeah. I feel like every single time the more logical your predictions are, the less true it's going to be. It's just because something dumb is going to happen, like a red card in the 8th minute, and then all your predictions go out the window. So prove me
this
wrong.
Is the thing, right? So Brentford hasn't scored in the last 2 games. They destroyed Leeds 5-2 with the Ivan Toney hat trick that basically got him called up to England the last time that they really got on the score sheet. They got battered by Arsenal when I actually thought that Brentford was going to hold their own. They did last year against Arsenal in the beginning of the season there at home. And they are much better, I feel like, at home than they are away this season. And going away to St. James's Park has never been an easy thing. Maybe I'm scarred as a Chelsea fan going to St. James's Park. I don't think Jose has ever won, no matter what team he's coached has ever won at St. James's Park. And I just think that the crowd there, I love watching those games just because of that atmosphere that they provide. I think that gives them that extra little bump up. You got Almiron, who came over from Atlanta United after they won MLS Cup a couple of years ago. Super Sunday MLS, the last game of the regular season this Sunday, so stay tuned. A lot of good playoff races there on the Eastern Conference side, as well as a couple on the Western Conference to solidify the playoffs going into that. So great sporting weekend for the MLS. But Almiron is leading the goal scoring there at Newcastle, surprisingly, to start the season. I think that's because of his work rate and because of him being at home, feeding off that crowd. It seems like he gets more and more into the game as it goes. And so for me, I do see a close one, but I think that Newcastle is going to have more firepower, especially with Brentford failing to score in their last 2 games. They're going to rely more on Ivan Toney probably. And I think Newcastle can set that up to get all 3 points.
They love him though. They love Almiron at St. James's Park. They absolutely love him there.
Yeah.
Don't forget St. Maximin. He is
is he hurt? Is he still alive? And Isak has a good start to the season as well. Three games, 2 goals so far in his Premier League campaign with Newcastle after joining. Got a big goal, I think, against West Ham as well in the League Cup. So he's had a great performance as well. So
that was a signing I didn't expect, Isak.
I was surprised because it seems like he's been bouncing around to some of the top 6 teams for the last 2 summers, and then for him to land there at Newcastle just kind of shows that maybe they are trying to be one of us.
Oh no, they're both injured. Isak and St. Maximin are injured.
Oh, they're both injured? Oh wow.
Yeah. So that changes everything.
That changes nothing because they have Almiron and they're still gonna win. So.
Prove me wrong.
I just told you. I did all of that without Isak. I was just using that as bonus.
That's true. Bruno Guimaraes as well.
He's injured?
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not
going to help me. He's going to help me.
There we go. Joe Willock, not too shabby either. He did great. He like earned himself a place in Newcastle for that like 7-game loan spell from Arsenal, and then just stayed there.
That's the whole point of loaning. That's the whole point of going out on loan, right? It's just to get your place in the new team. But now
he did so well with Newcastle.
We'll go with Newcastle though.
All right, I'll take this one.
I want to be proven wrong on this.
All right, we'll come back next week and we'll see who is right or wrong. Again, we got 6 out of 10 last week. Let's see if we can at least beat our record, which is 7 out of 10 in one game week. Tottenham travel to Brighton, who lose Graham Potter, and it doesn't matter. Great game away to Anfield, up 2-0. They did go from up 2-0 to down 3-2 to tying, but they just seem to put in good performances. That structure at the club is so fantastic, and they just play well. Tottenham obviously playing midweek away in Germany, now coming back for a Saturday noon kickoff here on the East Coast of the United States to take on Brighton. Are you agreeing with the 76% here that Tottenham are going to take all 3 points?
This is really weird for me. I find because I'm actually going to go with Brighton's going to win this game. And I'm surprised only 9% of people picked Brighton. I'm guessing this is also because people don't know what Brighton is. That's the reason why they were like, oh, okay, I know Tottenham. That's why I'm picking Tottenham over Brighton. But no, I actually have Brighton winning this one. They are like, there's a reason why, Graham Potter is now the Chelsea manager, right? There's a reason why, they decided to sack Tuchel. I think it's because Graham Potter is there. If Graham Potter didn't exist, I think, they could have been different. I'm not pointing my finger and say it will, but it could have been different. Brighton's probably one of the best drill teams, in the Premier League. Everybody knows exactly what their role is, what they need to be doing. They lose a couple of players, and they already have a backup, a player or they know who the replacement is already. They lost Bissouma to Tottenham, I think.
Yes.
And then they have I forgot who they had slotting right
Caicedo.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Caicedo has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, as soon as Graham Potter signed became manager at Chelsea, all of the rumors were like, bring Caicedo, bring Caicedo, bring Caicedo. I mean, he's been.
You guys have Conte. Jeez, like use the players you guys have now.
Because he's injured. He's injured.
By the time the transfer window opens and you want to get Caicedo, Conte will be fine. Hey, you're gonna play Conte.
We already signed Nkunku somehow during this period. He had a secret medical reported by Fabrizio Romano.
Ridiculous.
So he has a secret medical. So just everyone have secret medicals and signed terms here in the middle of the, So for those who don't know, just a quick brief on how transfers work in the world of soccer. You have 2 periods where you can sell and buy players between clubs. And there's a summer period and there's a winter period. The winter period is just January. And the summer period kind of changes based on when the seasons are going to start. But really it's June to usually the beginning-ish of August. And that's the only times you can buy and sell players. But for some reason, Chelsea decided that they were going to get a secret medical done and agree terms to Nkunku forward for RB Leipzig. Signing the star striker from RB Leipzig has worked so well for us in the past, as everyone hated on Timo Werner after he joined Chelsea. But hey, why not do it again and get Nkunku? But I personally was still a fan of Timo Werner. But that's a rant for another day. I actually think, like I said, Conte just knows how to pick up points. So I actually see this one being a draw. Trossard got a hat trick there at Anfield. Great performance for him last week. I see this one being a draw because of Antonio Conte and the way that he sets up. But I can see, especially away from home, it seems like Tottenham sets up shop. They don't create many opportunities. If they give a goal away and have to chase a game, that's when they get into real trouble. We saw that, at the Emirates, it just kept getting piled on this last weekend in the North London derby against Arsenal after they got the first goal. I wonder how long they can hold on against Brighton. I agree with you, Son, not really in the greatest of form, but I would go draw on this one. So convince me why it should be a Brighton win.
They lost to Arsenal. Yeah. And then
Drew Frankfurt.
They can't score.
See? So you think they
score?
they can't
Well,
score?
I
They
mean,
haven't
okay,
scored in two games.
but they can still, if you don't score, you can still draw, to be fair.
Yeah.
But no, I think Trossard's on the form of his life. But before I get to Trossard's into the form of his life, like
Yeah.
I was at the Netherlands Belgium game, here in Amsterdam, and Trossard was playing, De Bruyne was playing, didn't do anything. They were just standing there,
It's the golden generation of Belgium.
scratching their bum, and then they go back to the respective clubs after the international after the international break, and then play the game of their lives. Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
I mean, it's just because the Premier League's a farmers' league. That's really all I can chalk that up to.
At this point, the UEFA Nations League is just worth more than the Premier League. But oh my gosh! But nah, no. I think they're I think Brighton's gonna score. Brighton has a good scoring record in the last ever since they started the season. I don't see any flaws in that team right now, and that's the only reason why I think they're gonna win.
Yeah, I mean, 8 goals in their last 2 games. I would agree. It's hard to believe that they will not get a goal even after losing their manager, but returning home to take on Tottenham. I think I will give it to you. So we'll go with the Brighton win here from our picks at the webcast as we move on to 2 of the interesting teams for the season to go along with Brentford, I guess. Crystal Palace, kind of like Newcastle, you just watch them and you enjoy their performances because you can see the structure, you can see the way that they want to play, and they can execute pretty well. They did really well against City for about 70 minutes of that game. Drawing against Liverpool, arguably should have won that game with a late Zaha goal there. Leeds last week were able to hold on with 10 men, but then they get drubbed 5-2 by what is it? Brighton? Who did I just say they lost to? Brighton, Brentford, one of the teams. And so you don't know what to make of them really. And the American contingent there at Leeds with Jesse Marsh and Tyler Adams, who had a great international break, in my opinion. Brendan Aronson as well. Very interesting. I personally like Crystal Palace at home in this one. I think that they're really tough to beat at home. They know the way they play. The fans know the way they play. And they have a great structure under Patrick Vieira. And I like Crystal Palace in this one. Who do you like?
I don't know, because I'm surprised 40% of people picked a draw, because Leeds don't draw. Leeds either wins a lot or loses a lot. There's no in between, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, it's so weird because ever since Marcelo Bielsa left Leeds, we never thought that magic would reappear, because everybody loved the way that Bielsa coached Leeds, right? He injected a type of form or a type of energy into the team that I don't think is matched at all by anybody else. But somehow Jesse March comes in and he manages to do that. He manages to kind of, continue the legacy that Bielsa has built, which is, kudos to the guy, right? Like it's not easy to come in to just pick up, where the previous manager left off, and then
legendary manager for
legendary too, right? And continue the same type of way to play, and because every single manager struggles with this, right? Man United's still feeling it today, with the different managers that they come in, completely different styles. Everybody wants to play their own style, and none of the players know what to do because they're just all over the place. Like they're played in so many different systems.
That's why I love Tuchel so much, because he adapted. He knew how to play against each other team. It was different than Klopp's style. It was different than Pep's style. There's a reason why he had a winning record against the best managers in the world, because he could tweak and adjust, and he wasn't, and he tried to pick the system that fit the players best, and then bring in new players and switch it. Again, another rant for another time, which I've already given twice. But anyway, continue.
But no, yeah, right. It's never easy, and I think the best managers can do that. Tuchel's one of them. Ancelotti's another one. I think that manages to get the best out of the current players and play the way they want to play, rather than the other way around. So kudos to Jesse March on that. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go with Crystal Palace. I think Leeds are, I think they get Patrick Bamford back.
Oh, do they
I'm
finally?
not. Yeah, I think so, but I don't think. I mean, he's been out for a couple of months. I
Yeah.
think. I think he's been on and
Oh, he
on for
subbed on last week.
Oh, he's
He came
someone.
on.
Okay.
On
Well, I
last
mean,
weekend.
it's gonna take him some time before he can, get his energy back up. But man, the Leeds team that I will always remember is the one that when Leeds played Chelsea this season. When they ran a
Yeah. Well, that was
whole
the last time they
13.
won.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then there you go. That's your form for them. But no, like they ran a whole 13 kilometers more than Chelsea. So
Yeah.
that's an extra person on the field. That and on average, an outfielder
More, almost two
minus the
people.
goalie, you run about 11 or 12 kilometers a game. Like that's the average player. They ran 13 kilometers more. So
Yeah.
practically they had another man on the field. And
That game
I find
was,
that insane. I find that
yeah,
absolutely insane.
that game was absolutely ridiculous. They were down to 10 men for most of the game, or at least half the game last week, and were able to hold a 0-0 draw with Aston Villa. But I agree, Crystal Palace will take all 3 points in this one as we move to Fulham and West Ham. I think West Ham, more people expected more from West Ham. They had the terrible start. They seem to be picking it up a little bit. Now 2-0 win against Wolves last time out. Fulham with a red card to start off the game. Like we mentioned earlier, Newcastle ran away with it in last weekend's game as they now travel short distance across London to West Ham and the London Stadium. Do you got West Ham keeping all 3 points at home?
Yes. And mainly because there's just too many injuries. Fulham has way too many injuries. They're missing too many of the key players. Yeah, I think we saw the best of Fulham, but that it's not going to be this weekend. It's just not it.
Yeah, great start to the season. I mean, for those who watch the webcast regularly, Doug and I, big fans of Mitrovic and his celebration. Don't want to anger the guy who has, I believe he's top 3 in the Premier League in goals so far to start the season. But I think West Ham will pick up all 3 points there at home, as well as we move on to Arsenal with 7 out of 8 so far to start the season. The great win against Tottenham in the North London derby, where they just basically ran Tottenham off the park. 8 games into the season, I think we've seen enough to say that Arsenal and the way they play, the fluidity that they play with, the chemistry, the cohesiveness, even with a couple injuries throughout the season to start, and Europa League starting to pick up, even though they've gotten some games postponed, that they are going to be able to cope and compete with the best of them. Liverpool they seem like they're going to get going, and then they fall apart again. They had a 3-3 draw where they had to battle back and then also lost the lead at home at Anfield to Brighton. And then they go and beat Rangers 2-0 at Anfield with Sir Alex watching on for that one. Do you think Liverpool will figure it out and be able to go to the Emirates and pick up 3 points? Do you think Arsenal will continue their hot start to the season and stay atop the Premier League season after 9 weeks? I cannot believe those words are coming out of my mouth.
I think it was the last time that this happened. I think they won the league with Arsene Wenger. I think that was
really wow.
Yeah, I think
not even that year when Özil had like 16 assists to start the first half of the season and finished.
Oh,
like
I think
18.
that might be it. That might be the okay. I think until that time, but I think the time before that.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think the time before that it was they won. But no, you're right. I think there was 1 year also that they were insane. It was like Sanchez and Ozil, right? That was
where they would be really good for half a season, then really bad and ruin everything, and then be really good and then really bad, and then they just couldn't put it together.
They're the Christmas team. They play well for Christmas. That's it. Yeah. But no, I actually think Liverpool will win this game.
Liverpool will win. Go to the Emirates and pick up a victory. Wow.
I think they will.
Okay. What is your reasoning there?
So a lot of this is just like gut feeling, right? There's just a lot of the basis of why I think Liverpool's going to win is just pure. I think so. It's because I said so. But to speak get a little bit more context though, just apart from just the gut. I think one, it's literally a do or die situation for Liverpool at this point because every single team that had bad starts, they something happened, right? For example, Man United, they lost their 2 games, and then all of a sudden they came back winning 4 games, including beating Liverpool. So like it kind of, helped with the confidence or yeah, it kind of helped with the morale of the team. They needed that. Chelsea, obviously, they lost their manager, and I think at this point, like if Liverpool loses the game, they're going to be in big trouble. Like you look at the record, 2-4-1. Like that's not a championship caliber team. That's not a winning team. So, the last time Liverpool was, in deep trouble and they really, really needed to get out of there, they went out and beat Bournemouth 5-0 because they were just mad. I think this is one of those games where they just go out and they just absolutely have to win this game. There's no other option, right, for every single one of the players. I think that's number one. And number two, I think it's because of like the tactical differences between the two teams. Arsenal managed to run wild with Tottenham because Tottenham sits back, because Conte likes to sit back. Liverpool, regardless of how good or how bad their form is still a pressing team. They still, they're always on the front foot. They're always, like they lose the ball, they would come hunting after you, right? That's just how they play. Arsenal has some great midfielders and forwards that really know how to retain the ball, but their defenders are not as great on the ball as I think Arteta would like. So it just depends. Just if Liverpool can press well, I think that and the sun's shining and the winds are with them. I think they can actually beat them.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the style of play. I mean, we saw, especially with how hot Arsenal started the season and how kind of in and out Manchester United were when they played each other at Old Trafford, for United to kind of, to beat the only team to beat Arsenal so far to start the season was very interesting and telling. At that point was the best team that Arsenal had played. And Arsenal, obviously United has beaten Liverpool as well to start the season. So it's kind of a good comparison with a similar team there. It'd be interesting. Ben White, who's been playing right back for Arsenal for this entirety of the season and even in preseason due to injuries, but really has been playing really well there. Going up against, Luis Diaz and the like, or, be really interesting to see if he plays. And so I can see that. I can see this game being fireworks, back and forth. Both teams, Arsenal have something to defend. Arsenal obviously have a Europa League game tomorrow. We'll see who plays in that. They are at home for that one. It shouldn't be too much of a problem for them. So we'll see if, they give most of the backups time in that one to get some fresh legs for Liverpool, who played on Tuesday at home as well. So I actually will go with something like a 2-2 draw in this one. Just because Liverpool, I agree with you, the way that they play, they can get after Arsenal if they can bring the energy. United, I think the biggest revival for them was just that energy level that they've been given, almost coinciding with Ronaldo and Maguire being benched. But I think it's the energy level that like Martinez was able to bring into it, Varane was able to bring into it, and kind of just broke through the whole squad. And I think Liverpool, I agree, are going to be desperate enough and bring that energy. But I think Arsenal are playing too fluid, and Liverpool's defense has been just too leaky to actually keep them out, and especially at the Emirates.
2-2 draw it is.
2-2 draw it is. You heard it here. It'll be 2-2. Get your picks in here on ESPN as we move to Manchester United and Everton. Everton, part of a 3 goals in 5 minutes span on the other side of halftime against Southampton. Frank Lampard turning that around slowly. 2 wins on the season now for them as they take on United after their drubbing Manchester City. Really the Holland and Foden show. Who do you got in this one?
I mean, it has to be United. And it's not because United are great. It's just because Everton is just that bad. I mean,
I don't see anything else besides the United win, especially with the way that last week went with this Manchester derby. We'll see again. They also play tomorrow in the Europa League, so we'll see who plays in that one. Maybe Ronaldo will get a hat trick in that one. As we
or he leaves in January. There's only two options.
Two options.
He leaves.
Monday night again. It seems like Forest are always playing on Monday night. This time they are at the City Ground at 3 p.m. Eastern kickoff. So no Dean Henderson hat, which we love here at the webcast. But they take on Aston Villa, who I just do not know what to make of them. Their talent is there. It seems like they have a good structure. I'm still a big fan of Ollie Watkins. 2 wins now after their poor start, kind of similar to West Ham, kind of turning it around a little bit, but unable to pick up all 3 points against Leeds, who had a red card for 45 minutes at home, as now they travel to the City Ground, take on Nottingham Forest. You think Villa take 3 points from this one?
Yeah, I mean, same as like West Ham, as you said, right? Like things are starting to pick up, and I mean, I don't know about West Ham because they had, I think, 1 or 2 signings come in, and I don't think they really splashed out on the transfer market this summer. But Villa has backed Steven Gerrard. Like they've backed him. Almost every single player he wanted, he got. So he just needs to deliver, because if he doesn't, I don't think you'll see Christmas if he doesn't deliver. Because he's been given.
He won't get the Liverpool job, which is obviously what everything is leading towards, right? If he does well at Aston Villa, he will be the next Liverpool manager. I mean, that's just how this is going to play out. So we need this to happen.
I think he's going to be the Liverpool manager regardless. Like, I think he can lose the next 5 games, and then Klopp can lose his job, and they would still go for Steven Gerrard. Like, it's just nature, like death tax.
They have to do their.
Gerrard's going to be the Liverpool manager. It's just going to happen. But no, I think like it would be a big confidence boost for him, because I don't think like Steven Gerrard, I think, is well aware of how, like, let's say Frank Lampard, for example, he was kind of too premature to go to the Chelsea job.
Every club has done it. It seems like in the Premier League, minus City and Liverpool.
Well, Liverpool didn't do it because Klopp has been there. Every other team did it. So it's just Steven Gerrard's definitely next on the list. I think he's well aware that if he doesn't even do well in the Villa job, he's never going to get the Liverpool job, or he's never going to be successful in the Liverpool job, which is ultimately what he wants. So I think that's definitely on his mind. But either way, like as of right now, like he just needs to perform. He's got the player. He even swapped out the captaincy. Like he's gotten his way every single turn. So he just needs to deliver. So I still have Villa winning it. I'd be really surprised if they don't. And if they don't, it's going to be a sad. It's going to be a very sad day for Gerrard. He needs to watch
agree.
out.
I think they'll go in. It just seems like Nottingham Forest throws away 2-goal leads there at home to anybody and everybody with the attack power Aston Villa has. I give them all 3 points as well. So that's all our picks here from the webcast. Kester joining me for today's episode. Go ahead and make your account on ESPN and get your picks in. Friday, 7 p.m., we are doing college football as we enter the 3rd week of conference play. Week 6 already in the college football season. We are really moving along there. It is flying by. Great sports weekend with the MLS. Sunday, Super Sunday, to finalize all of the playoff spots, as LAFC already picked up the Supporters Shield. So we will be right on the eve of playoffs there in the MLS as the baseball postseason kicks off here on Friday as well. So a great sporting weekend all around. Kester, thank you for joining me on today's episode. He will definitely be back on future episodes. I'm pinning him down now. Super excited to have him staying up late in Amsterdam. Thanks for hanging out with us. All of the artwork you see here on the webcast is by Smiley Sports Artwork there on Instagram. So go check her page out. Link in the description. And from all of us at the webcast, we will see you on Friday.